Welcome back in to the Horseshoe Lounge. It is a glorious day again in Columbus, Ohio. We are at Roosters. It's a fun, casual joint. This is the live show. That is Justin Zwick, Bobby Carpenter, Bill Landis. I am Austin Ward. Did everybody have a fantastic weekend? Jay-Z?
No.
Oh, okay.
It was just kind of boring.
Really?
Boring. Got the yard mode yesterday.
Yeah.
Did a little bit of that.
That didn't get you juiced?
An 8th grade softball game yesterday afternoon. So that
Watch
was
what your niece?
one of the nieces. Yeah.
Okay, there we go.
So that was a lot of juice was brought to the girls softball game on Sunday
You
afternoon.
didn't watch Michigan's spring game, the Blue and Maize?
I saw a couple clips, but I didn't watch the game. No.
Didn't seem like that was quite as elaborate of an affair as Ohio State had, Bob.
No, I don't think so. But I watched McCarthy put on like 8 rings.
I did.
I'm not sure the math on the titles of how that worked, but he seemed to have it was like Phil Jackson over there when he's putting these things on. But you know what? Good for him. Kudos. I caught a little bit of it. I mean, their quarterback situation's interesting.
Interesting's a word for it.
Yeah, I mean, I just try to keep it above board here, Austin. You know, it's early in the show.
We haven't reached that part of the show yet.
Oh, okay.
You know, got to see Bruce Springsteen on Sunday night, so the boss was in town, did a great job. It's probably the last time I'll ever see him, so I was pretty excited about it.
Best concerts I've ever been to at the shop. When we were
06?
freshmen maybe, or no, we were young.
Ooh,
I think it was 02.
I don't know if I saw.
The winter of 02 he came in.
I didn't see him then.
No,
I saw him in 06 when he came back around. I heard that 02 was pretty good though.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's like maybe the 3rd or 4th time I've seen him, and he was good. 73, 74, whatever it was. Played for 3 hours. Great, and then we've got
Only 3?
maybe 3 and
Seems like
change.
a light evening for him.
3 and change.
He goes hard.
Well, there's no openers. It's just him.
Yeah.
I mean, like he is the.
He's the show.
I mean, he's mid-70s, dude. Like on his knees, dancing around. You know, heck, some of his band members are dead. He's playing with their kids. I mean, it's wild.
Yeah.
So it's pretty good. And then we got Monday night Raw, Columbus, Ohio.
Yeah, we were just talking about it before the show. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty exciting.
Come to Roosters and then just go right down the street to the shop.
Boom.
Bill and I will be there. Come say hi. Can't wait.
You going, Jay-Z?
No.
You going, Bob?
Yeah.
Where are your seats?
I was told I was talking to a friend of mine that's getting them taken care of, and he said they're going to be behind Pat now, so I'm pretty excited about that. Yeah.
Oh, so you're going to be holding up like the Ohio State championship belt right behind the announce desk?
Apparently. I don't know if I need a costume or what.
Oh, okay.
I'm not sure what.
Break out the spandex.
Yeah.
Just go in spandex just in case you get caught up.
I see. Bob's got the celebrity seats that pop up on the broadcast, and you'll be involved with Pat. Of course.
Well, I'm bringing my
should
kids.
have known.
Last week when they were in Pittsburgh, Cam Hayward had that seat.
It's Buckeyes only, no matter where they are.
Well, I mean, Pat, my youngest son wanted to go, and I was like, all right. And one of my buddies, he's really into it, so he was just going to take him. And then my wife said, you should probably go. Pat will go. Because AJ might be there, and I don't know if he's going to go or not. I was trying to talk him into it and bringing his boys. And so it's going to be my 2 younger boys and hanging out, getting after it, watching. It's been a long weekend, though, so it'll be a.
Oh, come on, Bob.
I'm not drinking tonight, dude.
You're not drinking it.
I'm positive. Listen, the
standard is the standard.
It is.
Standard is the standard.
But my
It's a good thing
standard
Nicole's
is
not
I
here.
usually dry out Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. And I'm going to New Orleans later this week. So tonight.
Oh, you're playing in the Zurich Classic this week?
Yeah, they asked me to come down there. So after Raw, I'm going down to play in the Zurich Classic.
Are you living my life? Or
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
I'm
Like, what
pro
is going
wrestler
on here?
/ professional golfer. Do it all.
What a life.
I mean, I just hope I don't get my uniforms mixed up. That's the only thing. That might be a little confusing for the folks, but yeah.
That's what happened to me at NXT when I wore my quarter zip out there to watch professional wrestling 2 weeks ago. But
You wore a quarter zip to that?
I did. Not to WrestleMania, but to Stand and Deliver I did.
Okay.
It
No time.
was a classy joint.
Thought it was more of a tank top affair.
Well, I can wear tank tops again, so maybe tonight. I don't know.
Yeah, busy week.
Yeah, we don't care about the weekend. We just care about Monday Night Raw. Right,
That's
Bill?
right. That's right. I'm not wearing a tank top, though.
Oh, okay. All right, so spring camp is over. We are going to talk about Ohio State football on this show, believe it or not. We've had a week to digest what happened in the spring camp and the 14 practices before that. So let's reflect. Bob, let's start with something that surprised you in spring camp for Ohio State.
Something that surprised me. Oh, you want good surprises, bad surprises?
Hey, any surprise. Pick your flavor.
Cherry surprise?
Cherry surprise.
Upside down cake? Let's go, I'm going to say positive surprise. How quickly I thought Sonny Styles was able to pick up playing linebacker.
Okay.
And at a pretty high level. Like, I knew he'd be fine in most of the coverage stuff and things because he was doing stuff adjacent to that, but his fits in the box, physicality, I thought was pretty good for a guy that he has the physical tools, but it's just a different set of skills that you've got to hone in. And it's kind of akin to playing point guard to then playing post. Like, a lot of the game's the same, but there's things that you've got to get good at, and he got good at them pretty quickly. And so I was pretty impressed with his transition. Because that stuff, everyone acts like it's just going to be easy, but it doesn't always go smooth.
So you have a bad surprise that's in your mind too?
I don't know if there's a bad surprise. I was just curious kind of.
Where I wanted you to go?
Yeah. I don't know. I don't think there was a bad surprise, really.
I have a bad surprise.
Dallin Hayden transferring is probably a bad surprise.
Bing,
I was going to
bang,
But that,
boom.
not crazy bad.
I was going to say, I was going to include that and Tony Alford leaving a week into spring camp. Like
Yes.
a couple negative surprises at running back, but then they turned into positives in some ways by the end, not because you have the quick rise, rapid rise of the freshmen there with James Peoples and Sam Williams-Dixon, and then also Carlos Lachlan, who I'm really impressed by him just a couple weeks into being on campus. So you had some negatives, but then you turned him into a positive surprise.
Well, coming out of the last game, there seemed to be a lot of negatives, and it started moving in our direction after that. I'll go good surprise. Jeremiah Smith. No, I'm just kidding. Not much of a surprise. I think the best thing, I feel like, and Bob is better at this because he's at every practice, but getting through healthy. I mean, I think we have a ton of great veteran players, a lot of younger guys who are getting some experience, but to get through a spring and have all those guys still healthy, we didn't have anybody really go down with anything that's going to go into camp or anything like that. So I think that's a huge part of spring ball, especially when you have a lot of guys come back like we did this year. So getting through it like that is big. The bad surprise I think was Hayden leaving. I was looking forward to seeing him play. Maybe that's selfishly on me. I thought he was really good when he did get his opportunities a couple years ago, and even last year I was hoping they were going to get him in that game. At times because I thought he would bring some spark. So
Bring some juice.
Yeah, bring a little juice, a little spark. But so that was a surprise. I mean, not that it's the end of the world. I think we still have a great running back room, but to lose a good player like that, knowing in the last couple of years how many running backs we've been throughout a season to try and get to the end. But we'll figure that out, and you never know with the portal being open what might happen there.
If he winds up at Colorado, that seems like a strange fit to me.
I wouldn't want to go run behind
offensive
totally
line.
revamped offensive line. Like it's not none of the 5 guys that started last year are starting this year.
That might be a good thing.
Yeah, it could be a good thing.
Well, but that was also the case last year, which turned out to not be a
so
good
it wouldn't be my first
Find
choice.
our best 5. Keep looking.
Exactly.
It's easy when you only have 5. I would say a good surprise for me would be just like maybe not having an appreciation of the depth in the secondary, which I thought was pretty impressive in that spring game. Corner was one thing, but like I actually feel good about safety, and I don't know if maybe people don't feel great about the depth at safety, but like if Lathan Ransom doesn't play and then Malik Hartford doesn't play, and I still don't know what Jahad Carter's going to do for this team, but he didn't play in the spring game, and I still thought the position looked pretty good with some of the young guys out there, and obviously Caleb Down. So it feels to me like they have 4 or 5 corners they feel really good about, and I think there's reason to feel really good about probably 4 or 5 safeties as well. And I'm only talking to 2 deep safety spots, not even including the nickel position with that. So I think the secondary depth is probably about as good as it's been in my time covering the team. And then I would say maybe I don't know if it's a surprise, but like Ryan Day projected so much confidence about their ability to find answers on the offensive line like before spring ball that I was willing to give them the benefit of the doubt. I was like, okay, they must see something here with some of these guys in the winter conditioning. Let's see what this looks like. And then they came out of spring ball with even less certainty, I feel like, about what they're going to do up front. So I don't know if that's surprising because I've said that I don't know that they necessarily had to have answers coming out of spring practice, but I thought that they were going to get closer to an answer by the end of spring ball, and it doesn't seem like they're any closer. In fact, it feels like they're a little farther away from having an answer.
Bob, what do you think of that?
I think that on the offensive line, they know they have 4.
Right.
And it's a function of how those guys kind of move around. And then I think they have a good second tier of players that are developing. I don't know if any of those guys during spring showed enough for you to say, hey, we have a locked-in 5th starter right here and feel good about the situation. So I think that's kind of where that oscillation is, and it's tough. The guy it's really tough on is Fryer. When you're like, hey, you're going to play guard or tackle depending on who else can play one of the other positions.
Right. Depending on what else we find.
We played you a lot of guard in the spring. You played a lot of tackle last year. You played guard in the past. Just kind of be ready because it may. I mean,
be on the right side. We're just not sure
inside or outside, and it's going to be a development. Where does Tigger Shabola? He was playing tackle, and then he was playing guard. Luke Montgomery played tackle last year. Now he's playing guard. I am inclined to believe that Fryer will play tackle, and they'll probably try to find a guard. I feel like that's kind of where this thing is trending, but you never know what it can look like in the fall.
If they don't add anybody, I think that's definitely
100%.
That's definitely what's going to happen. Yeah. But we'll see. There's nobody really out there in the portal right now that's interesting.
A good surprise outside of spring ball. I mean, we're a week into portaling almost.
Yeah.
And Berm's 5 to 7, 7.5, like taking the over. I mean, I feel pretty good about the fact that there's only 2 guys that have gotten in. And I think one you look at the
Cedric
Hawkins from Florida. You start looking at him playing corner. It's like, okay, well, all the guys above you are better. The guys that just came in are getting there. And then the other guy in your class is probably better than you too. And it's like, okay, I mean, I get it. It's not, you'd love to have the depth there, but this is where we're at in college football. He looks around like, what's my pathway to the field? Not only this season, but after.
And for being a week in and only having 2.
That's what I'm saying.
That was a good number.
Because usually if you're going to get in, you would want to get in
right
early.
away.
You already know that you're going to want to be in the portal at that point, right?
Yeah.
I mean, But now there were other factors. You have meetings with the position coaches Tuesday and Wednesday.
But that's already
I know it's all happened
transpired.
now, so you still would have thought by
through
the weekend that maybe something would have happened. Now, it still can. There's still a week to go, but it does feel like Ohio State is, quote-unquote, ahead of schedule. Maybe that's wanting to be part of a national championship. Maybe it's the strength of the brotherhood opportunity. I don't know. It doesn't feel like
I think
the Wild West thing didn't seem like it's transpired for the portal right now.
it's funny because I was talking to Josh Perry about this on my show, and he had a pretty good point. Like, you talk about being part of a national championship team, strength of the brotherhood, like those 2 things being critical when you're on a good team and there's a good group. And I think there's even 2 other parts of that I would take into account. Is number 1, knowing who you recruit, the type, what type of person you're getting.
Yep.
And then the second piece, and this goes even a little bit part and parcel with that because it starts early and then it stays there, is I think it shows the relationship and the level of honesty that these coaches have with the players so that they have an understanding and not unrealistic expectations of things, because that's really when people get disappointed. It's not when you're not playing, it's when you think you should be and you're not sure why, or someone told you would be, and now you're not.
During recruiting, hey, you're going to have all this going on, and all of a sudden,
it's like, hey, we've got really good players here. We would like you to be able to play early on, but if you're not ready, like, we're not putting you ahead of those guys, and you'll see when you get there.
Yes.
And then keeping an honest dialogue to where, hey, how good were you at practice today? How good was everybody? Like, let's start looking at this, because players can see that.
I think there's another element too, Bill, that's like last Tuesday, everyone said, oh, this is it. This is going to be the wildest portal opening of all time. Like, everyone's flooding in there, and it was like the numbers.
So it was like Ghostbusters 2 with that giant deal, Vigo and the
Vigo's
crazy
in there, and you've got the ooze going through the sewers, but that doesn't, like, people got in right away, and then it kind of petered out almost immediately.
I feel like nationally, like that's not even.
I haven't heard of anybody.
It's like there have been a couple surprises, like picked up blindsided by a couple defensive players, I think, leaving, and I know like Jaden Rashada at Arizona State's a big name, but like he also wasn't QB1 there, right? And that's kind of why he left. So it hasn't been what I think people expected it to be. There is another week. I think part of the process is teams kind of figuring out who's leaving before they decide what they want. So maybe like some of that calculus is happening now, and maybe some tampering perhaps might happen over the next week to get some guys to go into the portal. I'm not talking about Ohio State specifically, just sort of generally. But yeah, I think the state to which the floodgates would be opened was grossly overstated at the moment.
I think maybe some guys are learning too a little bit that there are still guys from the last portal that haven't escaped yet from the first window, and I think they're starting to get a little bit now of game plan and the reality of what happens when you get in the portal. Because it's not like going to the promised land with Moses and it's like milk and honey. Like you're escaping the you're out in the desert escaping Egypt, wandering in the wilderness, and just let me get to the portal, and it's gonna make it
nothing
better.
but milk and honey when you get there.
False. You get there, it's like, wait a second, nobody else wants me.
Yeah, nobody.
Well,
Damn it.
and even if you do find a place to go, it's
There's
it's
millions of dollars in playing time.
bountiful money everywhere.
Yeah.
But, okay, let's say you even do get it. You have to go learn over the summer. You don't have a practice until August. That's got to be some part of it that people are learning. Like the winter portal gives you an opportunity to actually play and make an impact.
Austin, I subscribe to the JBD theory.
All right, let me hear it.
Just ball, dog.
Just ball, dog. All right.
Okay, we don't need anything else.
You don't think there's any part of this that guys are getting more mature about the decisions? Like
There's a lot that goes in. Yeah,
practice.
I've missed all of spring practice. I have to move. I've got to learn my coach. I have nobody on the team. Like if you're an offensive player, especially a skill guy. Who's your quarterback? You've got to develop like a rapport with those guys. Offensive line, very tough. Even defense coming in there, like you're getting airdropped in here at this point in time with just the summer. Yeah, you're older, but it's a little bit just like if you graduated high school and didn't enroll early and got there June 1.
Right.
I mean, it's not an easy thing to do to come in and try and play.
We can't narrow it down to say it's just one part of the decision. That was a good point, Bob. Like these guys have 5 or 6 different things to consider. So if Ohio State has the opportunity to have had honest evaluations, brotherhood, national championship, all these other things, like they don't have to fear late April. Like I don't think that the worst case scenario arrived.
We have nothing to fear but fear itself.
That may be true. Did you trademark that?
I don't know if I can claim that as an original. I think someone else.
Michael
it's
Scott.
tough.
Michael Scott.
Michael Scott.
He said it a couple years ago.
Well, you know what is trademarked now? Appetizer threes. Bob, we got some fried.
This is Bill Zwick.
Right
it's the Bill Zwick favorite.
Bill Zwick special.
The fried mushroom, delicious piece of fungi, fried in
a little ranch
golden
sauce
brown.
into.
Take them for a swim with it.
You want to get wild and get the spicy ranch even.
That
$3.
You always should.
All
get
day
the
long.
spicy ranch. Anytime ranch is on the table, it needs to be spicy. Bill taste tested them already, so thumbs
I've
up.
had quite a few.
Thumbs up.
None of it's being wasted.
No.
Never will be. So don't worry about that. We're going to take a break. We're going to bring in Berm. We got a lot more to talk about with Ohio State. Maybe he can talk about wrestling too. I don't know.
Maybe Berm can actually defend his portaling position.
Ooh, we'll find out.
We'll put him to the test.
Stay tuned.
When we come back to Roosters, which is a fun, casual joint.
Roosters has been so fortunate. We just want to be able to give some of that back to the community.
They donate to organizations that are near and dear to their heart, and we're so fortunate to have been with Roosters now for a long time.
They always go above and beyond to help support our foundation to further help veterans.
It's just a wonderful feeling to know that Roosters supports the Buckeye Cruise for Cancer.
All the folks at Roosters are just genuinely kind folks, and they want to make a difference.
Thank you, Roosters Foundation.
Thank you, Roosters.
Thank you, Roosters.
Thank you, Roosters Foundation.
Welcome back into Roosters. It's a fun, casual joint, and Berm is here. Bob's got a question for you.
What's the question, Bob?
7.5 over.
What's up with that, Berm?
We're halfway there, Berm. You're over for a late push.
They got all worried because Berm said 7.
I want to be very clear about something. That started because someone on the Rivals.com message board said, "Here's the over/under. What would you say?" And I said, maybe over, because we were expecting and hearing from all corners of the world that this spring portal season was going to be nuts,
crazy,
and I think
Wild West.
I think that there was some misunderstanding. Number one, of people's fundamental intentions, or what is happening in the Woody Hayes Athletic Center. Number one,
what is happening in there?
Guys are interested and want to win.
7th floor crew.
But I think that there's also
Moral Tower,
a clear delineation between the players who've been in the program for a while that are not going to play and have decided, what's the point of going somewhere else and not playing when you can win a national championship?
Not playing, win a national title.
Banners
fly forever.
Or the young guys who have decided, hey, there's going to be an opportunity this year with potentially 16 games, 17 games, to play, even though I'm not a starter. I know very well that a couple of the coaches, one of the things that they were pushing in this last week was, what value, and this is what you guys were just talking about, what value are you getting by leaving now? Like, if you had left in December,
make it rain.
If you had left in December, it makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
But to leave now, you're going to go somewhere where you can't practice, where you don't know the scheme, where you don't know the coaches, and you are going to get there and be behind all the guys that have been there. So why go somewhere else to be behind when you can be here and continue to develop in our building and with a potential
develop here?
Yes, developed here.
What about the dollar bills, y'all?
I mean, I think it's pretty clear that
There
a
are
lot of
dollar bills
I
in
don't-
Columbus as well.
yeah, and I don't know that a lot of these teams, like a lot.
Memphis just has $25 million.
Memphis
for
is a
guys.
spot where someone, that's new money, right? But a lot of these other programs that people want to go play for,
Tapped out.
they might have blew their wad in December.
What does that mean? Blew your
It means
wad?
they had a wad
Like a wad of cash.
and they blew it.
You've spent it all.
It's gone.
on one person.
Not all the time.
Okay,
Sometimes just spread it
multiple.
around.
Straight around.
Here, there. It
Just depends.
could be anywhere.
I still think you can look at the roster and say, oh, here's 7 or 8 or 9 or 10 guys who it would make some sense for them to look elsewhere.
Are you lobbying for these guys now to get in?
No, I don't care. I'm glad. I like these guys on this
I thought
team.
you wanted to be right so bad. You told me you were now calling these
I
guys.
could
and
care less.
You
about
better
being right.
leave.
Facilitating.
I got the over.
I could care less about being right. I think that it is.
And there is still another week.
Yeah,
Like,
and there's
it's
a
not-
lot of things that can happen. So we still hear names of people that are making these decisions, but for the good of the program, I think it's actually it's a positive sign. Like that is, you don't want guys to want to leave. Like that was something that Ryan Day had been really, really proud of over the last few years, is that we don't have a lot of guys leaving this program. People want to play here. They want to stay here. So the guys that do leave, the Cedric Hawkins, like you can understand, he's going to be the 4th or 5th guy in the slot. Like, and he didn't play at all as a true freshman, and he got in here in the summer, and like he was behind, and he's never going to catch up. So a place like Central Florida, close to where you're from Cocoa High School down there in Florida. Like it's going home. It's an opportunity to play at a program that's up and coming, spending a lot of money. Gus Malzahn in the program at Central Florida is doing some good work. Like that makes sense. It makes perfect sense for Dallin Hayden, who's stuck in the middle.
Stuck in the middle.
Right, exactly. He's behind Travion and Quinchon, and then you have a lot of people in the Woody Hayes Athletic Center who are super stoked about what they're seeing out of James Peoples, and all of a sudden, like, where do I fit in? Mm-hmm. So it makes perfect sense. There's other players, and again, we don't talk specific names, but if you look at the wide receiver position, there's guys, people are like, what's the role? What's the path here?
Yeah. What's the path to get on the field?
And if those are the guys that I think specifically have been making and have to make a decision. A lot of guys haven't finished classes yet also. Like, that's still going.
Yeah.
There's
Finals are this week.
Finals this week.
Early next week, I think, maybe Monday.
Like, we saw Devin Brown at the Elite 11 on Sunday, and he said he's got classes up until Thursday, and then he's going home for 3 weeks, and he'll be back on May 12th, right? So, like, there's still a lot of kids who can make decisions this week, but I think most of them realize doing it before you finish classes is sort of stupid at this point. So if you're going to make that move, which
can you get in the? I mean, you still finish your
be in
exam.
yeah, I mean, it opens up the ability to have conversations, but then your phone's going crazy, and you're maybe
trying to study.
You're maybe not focused on what you need. I don't know. I'm just saying, like, anything's possible still. But it is those guys. It's the guys lower on the depth chart of the wide receiver position.
I'm going to give you a chance to recant. And
I mean, I don't need to recant it.
Put a new number out there.
I didn't really say.
Readjust.
I said I think it could be over because that's what.
If you had to put all of your worldly possessions, including your wife, on there.
This is all I got. Some fried mushrooms. I would say probably 5 still. I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if you still see a few more guys. It makes sense. There are other pieces still coming in. Like, again, and I'm sticking to wide receiver because it feels like such an obvious position for.
Well, receiver and DB, there's a lot of good players there. Good young players, good old players, and if you're a guy who thinks you might be kind of averaging in the middle, it's not a great place to be.
What are you talking about? Cornerback, receiver's another one you could probably. Once you learn the route tree, how
they
they
can
like
simplify
it, run,
it
they
and
can
put
make
you
it. Yeah.
right,
Give your
in one
wristband
spot.
say number 1, run deep.
Like, you still have Mylan
I did that in
Graham.
high
You still have Mylan Graham coming in this summer. Like, there's still other things that are going to happen, and those guys. Again,
other forces at
it's
work.
the message we've heard over and over. And the guys know, right? The guys in the building know. Like, they've seen Mylan Graham. He's been working out with them for the last. They know what he's going to be, and so
he looks like a grown man. Have you seen him, Bob?
More so than Jeremiah Smith.
No, Jeremiah looks like a
Hall of Famer.
Transformer.
Comparing him to Jeremiah Smith is unfair. Jeremiah Smith is a unicorn. If he didn't exist on Ohio State's roster and you only saw Mylan Graham, you'd be like, well, that's the most physically developed true freshman you could possibly have.
If you look back to what Chris Olave looked like as a freshman, or Garrett Wilson, like Mylan
Chris
Graham,
was buff.
He was wiry, right? But he was
lean.
Chris was his arms looked like this.
Right. So if you compare,
and I mean that in the most respectful way possible.
because Mylan's that type of player.
Yeah.
But he's also well beyond
well endowed.
where they were.
He's Chris Olave looking like a junior or senior, which is a good place to be.
Yeah, 100%.
So there's still room there for things to happen, but like I don't think anyone should want guys to leave because again I don't buy into if people leave you have a culture problem BS that people were perpetuating back in December when Ohio State had to lose people. If you wanted to have 9 guys come back for the senior years, guys had to go.
Yeah,
that's not the case right now. They don't have to turn over the roster.
I think that's a good point though, Berm. Like Ohio State's already been through this with the guys who didn't see a role at Ohio State. Like
right, the only thing that's really fundamentally changed is you've seen now the emergence of the true freshman class and guys that are coming in that are going to push. And you've seen, but every other position, like offensive line, I think we can reasonably say there's guys there that you could see them moving on. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. But every other position, I don't know that there's really many opportunities to leave. You got wide receivers, you got offensive line, linebacker, you got Cody Simon, and then 4 guys who are all playing for the first time. Like it's safety. You have Caleb Downs and Lathan Ransom, and then a couple guys that are basically on the field for the first time. Jalen McClain and Jaden Bonsu and Malik Hartford. Like you don't have a whole lot of depth there. So defensive end, I think, is a spot where people could look at it and say, hey, maybe there was a chance for movement here. But
I think that's the place to easiestly rotate guys, like and get them on the field.
Right,
although you were clamoring against that last year.
No.
Maybe it was Austin. It was Austin.
That was 2 years ago.
He wanted less rotation. So you know what? Larry said, I see your less rotation.
I'll give you
Play
zero
the whole
rotation.
Game. He may have
Austin said we can't rotate. You're playing every play.
I don't know. JT and Jack still made plays at the end of Notre Dame game, and they played every single snap. So whatever.
But you want to maybe get a Kenyatta Jackson on the field. Maybe a Caden Curry.
And Mitchell Melton.
Those three guys got to play.
There's opportunity there. So the question is, if you're a program in Florida and you know one of these kids is from Florida, and
who would want to go to that dumpster fire right now?
I'm saying in anywhere in Florida, not necessarily Florida.
You said
perhaps Tallahassee.
I said if you're a player, if you're a program in Florida, whether it's Florida State, whether it's Miami, whether again Central Florida has a lot of money to spend. They are being active. Like you could see where those.
Where does that come from for Central
Florida?
Disney. Disney's paying for Central
Florida.
Central
Florida is like the largest school.
It's got like 48,000.
No, I know. On campus enrollment, it's the answer to a trivia question all the time, but it doesn't. Like they're not spending that money on athletics.
No, they're trying. Gus Moll's on doing it.
All right.
But
space race.
You know, I think the question is how willing are guys to listen to? There is tampering going on left and right. Everyone knows that. So it's just about. How do you feel coming out of spring? And I think Ohio State made a concerted effort this spring to tell people there's going to be reps. Now, will there be reps? That's the question.
I think they did a good job rotating guys during the spring.
It's easier when you don't have to play guys in the spring.
Well, because Lathan's not playing. He had some time off.
JT and Jack
need to see a lot of.
And so, but I think those guys in doing that, they get better. They get to see what they can do, and so there's a comfortability level that increases as well. I don't know if you guys were wanting to get into that. Did you see the Virginia House bill that they passed
on Thursday?
Yeah. I mean, eventually that's going to be the case everywhere, right?
Well, I was just curious. They passed that. I guess what their intention was. NCAA figure this out. Like you're gonna have to do something about it. Did you see what this was, Jay-Z, where they can now directly pay
the timing
student athletes?
The timing was uncanny. So we had the. I don't want to call it a celebration of life. It was a celebration of legacy for Gene Smith on Thursday. It was an hour-long chat at the Fawcett Center. Doug Lesmerises hosted it. I mean, that's what it felt like because they had this sign out.
Did they have an easel with his face on it behind
it? Yes, they did. And
no!
And it was like the number had the number 19 and Gene's face inside it. And I was like, I know what you're going for, but
still right here.
He's right here. I was like, maybe we've overdone it a little bit, but anyway. The timing of that, that happened in the morning, and I don't think Doug maybe had brought it up at one point with Gene about that. It's like that's the changing landscape. Like there are no rules to any of this stuff, and that's one of the things that we've said is inevitable, right? Is schools need to be involved with NIL.
Yeah.
You cannot keep asking the fan base to foot the bill. They're already paying enough to go, to go to a game,
go to the games, buy the jerseys,
whatever, pay for a beer, have a hot
cable
dog.
TV.
Like all of that stuff is already a lot.
YouTube TV's up to like $80.
Yeah.
$84.99.
Pay for the cock.
Streaming on the cock, a tax
pay for it all
on the stream. So you can't keep asking, especially if you have a broadcast deal that's going to bring billions of dollars into the Big Ten. You can't be asking fans to do that. So the schools have to take some initiative of that. But then Gene Smith is talking about, all the other complications that come into that. There's different labor laws in all 50 states. Are you going to make them employees? That's difficult and almost impossible to do. And you have everyone's favorite thing, federal oversight and federal legislation has to be involved to get this fixed because the NCAA is frankly not going to be able to do it. And they've given up too. There's all right.
Well, I think they could do it if they actually crafted a plan that made sense instead of just being retroactive and now we're going to allow one-time you transfer as many times as you want. Well, that was going on anyway because the court said it was going to happen.
The court's already prevented you from
the problem is you need some sort of
you can't have sports without rules.
Yes.
You can't have competition without rules. You can't have 130 teams playing by 130 different sets of money, by 130 different sets of you can't do that. This
isn't numb. There are rules.
It's stupid. It has to be fixed. Someone has to do it.
There's still rules of engagement in NOM.
No, not according to Walter Solchek. There weren't.
He's never seen The Big Lebowski.
Oh gosh, that's terrible. But
never seen what?
The Big Lebowski.
The Big Lebowski, tremendous movie. But I would say this.
So the reference was whatever.
That's too bad, Austin. You need to get on that.
It's amazing. I mean,
trailing behind Jay-Z.
That's not a good.
That's not a good place for me to be.
That's not good. It came out 25 years ago.
If that doesn't motivate me, nothing will.
So part of that though is there needs to be, and this is a much bigger discussion, but the NCAA or whoever the governing body is has to have someone to be able to negotiate these with.
Yeah.
And right now, you just have a bunch of college players, and I don't know if it's a working group. I don't know if it has to be a union. They said there's different ways they could go about this, but there has to be something on the other side that's okay, this is what we want, this is what you want, this is how
even if you have almost a House of Representatives among college football players,
yes.
if you have a representative from every school that speaks on there, I don't know, something has to happen. Bottom line is this is what Ohio State specifically, while they had been pretty reserved with NIL previous to this offseason, has been waiting for. This is the lane that Gene Smith has been assuming would come.
Yeah.
And so someone has to start it, and so the state of Virginia did, which is good, and eventually that will become the law of the land. But
because once one state does it,
I can't wait.
Choice.
I wish I was sitting in the Tennessee state legislature this week as they're trying to craft this policies together.
Well, they'll just copy and paste whatever Virginia did.
So
that's all you have to do.
The best
by
thing
2026, I'm sure this is how it will be.
2026. We might not even be here by then.
It's a great point. Great point.
Valid.
They're not in this location because I think they're rebuilding.
Don't talk about that. We're not supposed to.
They've been talking about
spill those details.
Whatever. I spill details.
Spill the beans.
So surprised me. What surprised me this spring?
Oh, did you want me to ask you that?
Yeah, I wanted to talk about it. I was surprised at how quickly Ryan Day gave Chip Kelly power.
Carte blanche?
The empowerment
Maybe
piece.
Chip just took the power.
Possibly, but I think that's exactly why
he just took it.
Power resides where people believe it does.
But I think that's exactly why he was the right choice for being the offense coordinator, which is why back in December I said, I think he's the right guy. And then now the opportunity there. But I think that Chip Kelly has been so refreshing for the guys in that building but most importantly for Ryan Day. So that's the big. I thought there'd be a little pushback, a little bit hey, I don't want to give this away. And it seems like he's totally okay with it.
Is it a bad surprise that we don't have a starting quarterback coming out of spring? Or is it just 15 practices, we're letting him get his feet wet?
Isn't that the catch-22 of this? That happens for one of two reasons. It didn't happen last year because both guys were inconsistent and underwhelming. And maybe that's the case now, or maybe it's the case now that they're both
really
playing
good,
well, and so you can't choose because they're both doing things well.
Is it even fair to make a decision after 15? I say fair meaning that's not a lot of information.
No, especially when you're playing five quarterbacks, running through them the way that Ohio State was. I think that there's a leaning in the building, but I don't think it's enough to put you
make the call right now
in a direction. Now, again, that goes back to the transfer portal talk. If Devin Brown, I'll just use him because obviously
don't you put that evil on him.
It's an obvious discussion and everyone's aware of it. If Devin Brown were to say, hey, you know what? Yeah. I wanted to know that I was or wasn't the guy. Now I'm going to move on. Then you have your answer. But if he's not, if Devin wants to stay and fight, which again told me yesterday he's going to be back on May 12th,
It doesn't seem like a kid who's got. I mean, everything he said.
They're pretty vehement about.
I like
the boats are on fire.
I like competition. So the more guys want to compete, and the more guys are saying, "Hey, f you, I'm not leaving." Like, I think that's great. Bring it.
It's a real Wolf of Wall Street situation going on over there.
That's when you are winning. When you're a winning program, you have to have that. You can't have guys that
gotta fight back.
You can't have guys saying, "Oh, I'm not going to play. I'm going to leave." Like, that's.
You don't want a bunch of Eeyores?
No, man, that's garbage. Like, you don't.
I think the outside perception is like always going to be it's bad if you don't have a starting quarterback in a clear pecking order. But I don't.
Well, I think it makes it worse because
inside
it's
the program,
a 4-year guy that you brought in to be the guy.
Yeah. Well,
I guess you needed somebody because you told Kyle to leave.
I think it's worse because of the situation last year. If last year hadn't happened the way it did.
That's why I mean the perception. Because everybody went through this last year, and we would say, well, we saw good things, and I know that I did. But Devin Brown and Kyle McCoy can both take Ohio State where they want to go. Well, Ohio State didn't get there. So clearly I was wrong about that. And if we're sitting here and the four of us saw things from Will Howard and Devin Brown throughout spring that were encouraging for both of them, or even for Lincoln Kienholz, or days with Julian Sand, or the spring game for Aaron Nolan, he said, well, the strength of this room is really healthy.
No, the strength of this room is strong.
The strength is strong. Your whole team's strong.
We strong then.
Strong.
So we can say that, and you can feel good, and it doesn't have to come off as well, we're saying it's positive. Well, we don't know. There's still 3 months until they have to get into training camp again, which is to Bob's point. Do you have to name a starter after 15? No. Does Ohio State feel like there's desperation or they made a wrong move with Will Howard or that Devin Brown can't become that? No, they don't feel that. So there's not panic in the Woody, but I also understand why there might be at the disco.
The disco?
Yeah. There's panic at the disco. It's pop culture. I got to keep throwing it back
there
out
there
to
go.
catch up.
I appreciate that. Yeah.
Although I don't know.
I was trying
Catch
to
up
wrap my
to
brain
the-
on that one.
I can't fall behind with the big.
And I chimed in.
You did.
Haven't you people ever heard of Tavian St. Clair?
Yeah. Who's he?
What'd you think about him
See
on
the kid-
Sunday?
Wait, that's right. They had the
Big
Lilo.
Belt Fountain.
I'm surprised you weren't there.
It was at
at your
yeah.
high school.
I know. I forgot about it. They wanted volunteers to do
What
stuff.
a freaking campus. My goodness.
Where you at? Upper Arlington?
Yeah.
Oh, gosh.
Wow.
I walked into a basketball game there this year. No wonder it was more.
That was
like
wild.
$10 to get into a
Had
JV
a
game.
recital to go to there. The auditorium is like 1,000 seats.
Yeah, what an incredible school.
Must be nice.
I'm going to say this.
What do you mean? People say must be nice, as
You
if
went
like
to
it's free.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
you
went
have
to a
an
city
indoor-
school.
So ours is city school too.
Well, different kind
private?
of city.
Tavian St. Clair is the Ohio State 2025 quarterback commitment from Bellefontaine, Ohio. Landed his invitation to the Elite 11 finals on Sunday. Not surprising that he was picked. I mean, a lot of these things
I think
are
they
political.
already had the invitation made.
Yeah,
before
a
he
lot
showed
of these
up.
things are political. And
Green
so
jacket was already
the highest,
Yeah,
the highest ranked,
was
Right arm was just a little bit longer than the left.
the highest ranked guy, like the Ohio State commit, like it's almost always certainly that he's going to earn that invitation. But and Bill and I talked with him on the podcast earlier this morning. He absolutely deserved it. Like the kid he was unbelievable on Sunday. Just what they have them doing. Obviously, it's not real.
Are these
football.
guys, you're telling me the start of this year is just a placeholder?
I'm telling you, I'm going to say this, and it's going to come across as me hyperbolizing, and maybe I am. At trying
Better
to,
than Julian and Aaron Nolan combined.
I think if I'm ranking like just as their Ohio State prospect, right? Like Justin Fields would still be my top quarterback prospect I've ever seen.
Okay.
Because he was running a 4.4 and 6'2.5" and 215 and
220
rocket arm.
Yeah.
He did turn out pretty good.
And I think Tavian St. Clair is right after him.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
As far as the combination of traits, he's almost
Now hold on.
6'5", almost now 228 pounds.
He's a big dude.
He
moves well too.
throws the ball extremely well. Throws it with like touch. Throws it with power. Can hit all three levels on the defense. Like he is, and he moves well. He's not like a 4.4 guy like Justin Fields, but by the time he finishes his Ohio State career, he'll be a 4.6 guy at 6
JT
foot.
Barrett running.
He's as if you combined Terrell Pryor with not CJ. CJ as a passer is just insane. Maybe
Dwayne?
like Cardale.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay.
Like I think you're getting into the ballpark, and
Terrell was also like
Terrell was a freak.
4'4".
Yeah, Terrell's a freak.
Sounds like we have a mashup of JT and Cardale.
Yeah, I mean
it's like Terrell's size.
No, but
is what you're trying.
It's Terrell's size, and he's going to only continue to get faster and all the things that come with working in Ohio State. The best thing is, though, Tavian has been here like every day for the last 2 months, and the opportunity that he has, and this is why he wanted to commit early, was because he knew he has an opportunity no Ohio State quarterback commit has had, which is I can be on campus all the time. I can be there learning all the time. He's totally enamored with Chip Kelly. Has bought in, like the guys, Devin and Air were there to see him yesterday.
I heard they had Ryan allowed him to interview Chip for the job.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised.
Just like the running backs got here with the running back coach.
No, but
that's the new approach.
I really do. Like, I would have him ahead of CJ as a prospect.
I was going to ask because when we went to Rancho Cucamonga, you
CJ throwing the ball,
watched him, and you said he was going to.
Sounds like a made up school.
I thought we were going to a made up.
It looks made up too. Like when you talk about Upper Arlington,
it looks like a film. You're at the She's All That.
It's that's one of those
that's
schools.
What it looks like.
Those places, and I'd always see like 10 things I hate about you. And so where are these schools that are like?
That's exactly what it looked like. And then and then there's the mountain behind it. And then you had the kids on his team who were out there like for their walkthrough the day before a playoff game in like jeans and flip flops. And like, this is not a real place. And that's where
a lot of bromans out there.
We watched CJ, and you could see like as a passer, he was always different. Tavian is extremely natural. Like he's a former baseball player. He was throwing almost 90.
His dad played baseball at Ohio State.
He was throwing almost 90 miles an hour as a freshman in high school. Like his ability to just throw the ball is very natural. It's not manufactured. It's not someone who looks like he doesn't. It's not clunky. Like this is a kid who's a natural thrower at that size, and I would have him right below Justin as far as what I've seen. Like the clay is pretty incredible.
He likes what he sees.
I can't handle you, bro.
The clay got to mold.
Now you just have to sculpt it.
Yeah,
the clay is incredible.
Wait, and in this scenario,
you and Patrick Swayze
is yes. Who is Swayze and who is Demi? Who is Whoopi? Chip, Austin,
Berm,
Ryan. Who's what's the pot?
Who's coming over the top? Holden. Who's holding the hands?
I just watch, bro.
Who's the one on the Potter wheel?
I'm just saying. If you put, he's ahead of Dwayne, he's ahead of CJ.
$3.
These are
fried mushrooms tomorrow.
People, I know it's weird to get like that worked up about a kid who's not going to.
You know what Berm's trying to say is, don't worry about this year.
Yes.
Tune in 2025 for the Buckeyes.
What I'm saying is the quarterback situation with Julian Sayin and Aaron Noland and
let them all leave.
St. Clair coming. Like,
you got Tavian.
It's still going to be pretty darn good. Tavian. Yes.
Tavian. I always want to call him Austin St. Clair. I don't know
and
why.
he's such a great kid too. Like,
he's really nice. I met him.
Extremely humble. Like he does not have the I'm a big time quarterback like
when
attitude.
he came to camp last summer, I thought that he might be starting to the swag was on 10.
No, the swag's on 10 all the time. Okay. Like he
swag on 10.
He's not like he's confident, and that is because he's completely changed who he is in the last 2 years as far as going from a 6'3", 175-pound freshman to now a 6'5", 230.
I wasn't that impressed with him when I first saw him, but then I realized he was only 15.
Yeah,
and like usually when you're seeing guys, you're seeing him at like 17. Like, God, he's kind of skinny. Like, he's only 15. I'm like,
earlier than ever.
Okay, well, let me see him in 2 years, and then he put like 25, 30 pounds on, and now he looks like a dude.
He looks like Will Howard. Like if you stack up, we've talked about how Will Howard when he walked in the first time, you're like, it's a big old boy. Like Tavian looks more college ready physically than anybody on the roster right now, except for Will Howard. And he might be the best passer of that group, except for maybe Julian Saint.
Ooh.
Well,
that's a long tease right there.
So just remember,
if it's not if it's not hyperbole, look out. And if it is, who cares?
He may end up being the number 1 ranked quarterback in this class, and which is crazy considering a year ago he was not ranked.
Where's the Elite 11? Is it in L.A. again?
L.A., June 18th through 20th.
You know what is elite is these fried mushrooms that are $3 all day long. Appetizer Thursday at Roosters. Boom. Be here, be there, be square.
$1, $2, $3. Fried mushrooms. Appetizer Thursday. Don't miss it. Hey, thanks for joining us on another Monday at Roosters. We appreciate Nicole Cox and her whole team for having us out here. Thanks to Bill Landis, Justin Zwick, Bobby Carpenter, and Jeremy Birmingham. I am Austin Moore. We'll be back in here next Monday. See you then.